Well, hello, and we're in Deuteronomy. We're doing chapter 18. We're going to finish it off today. Reading from verses 14 to 22. We'll read from the NIV. The nations you will dispossess listen to those who practice sorcery or divination. But as for you, the Lord your God has not permitted you to do so. The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among you, from your fellow Israelites. You must listen to him. For this is what you asked of the Lord your God at Horeb on the day of the assembly, when you said, Let us not hear the voice of the Lord our God, nor see his great fire any more, or we will die. The Lord said to me, What they say is good. I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their fellow Israelites, and I will put my words in his mouth. He will tell them everything I command him. I myself will call to account anyone who does not listen to my words, that the prophet speaks in my name. But a prophet who presumes to speak in my name anything I have not commanded, or a prophet who speaks in the name of other gods, is to be put to death. You may say to yourselves, How can we know when a message has not been spoken by the Lord? If what a prophet proclaims in the name of the Lord does not take place or come true, that is a message the Lord has not spoken. That prophet has spoken presumptuously, so do not be alarmed. So this is an extremely important passage, because first of all, that at the beginning it says, the nations around you listen to those who practice sorcery or divination. You're not allowed to do that. And that's actually still true today. There are still people called spiritists, mediums, or fortune tellers, and we obviously must not have anything to do with them. But also we have, society as a whole has seers or fortune tellers. We tend to call them modelers or forecasters. Now, I mean, if you look at the COVID epidemic, the governments were making decisions based on models, and the models proved themselves again and again to be wrong. And yet people kept listening to them. It's a very stupid thing to do. And right at the end of this section it says, if something doesn't come true, you do not need to listen to them. We could perhaps have applied this to the modelers. And the same is true with global warming. The models, I'll tell you one thing about the models, they'll all be wrong. That doesn't mean things don't happen. And let me also say, that doesn't mean that mathematical modelling is a complete waste of time. I am a mathematical modeler, or was a mathematical modeler as part of what I did in my academic career. I got my PhD on the basis of mathematical modelling. I published papers related to mathematical modelling. It's the misuse of it that's the problem. And God gives very good advice here at the end about how to prove, to assess mathematical models. Do they work? Do they make accurate predictions? And if they don't, they're a load of rubbish. Putting things crudely. But anyway, obviously this passage is not about mathematical modelling. But anyway, let's look at verse 15, which is where we get to the really important stuff. The Lord your God, this is the words of Moses, the Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me. You must listen to him. And then in the bit later, and the people of Israel said, well, we don't want to see God, we'll die. And God says, it's quite interesting, verse 7, he says, God, what they say is good. God agreed with them. So he says, I will raise up a prophet like you, like Moses, from among the fellow Israelites. Now the prophet here is Jesus. And she says that you must listen to him. That's why in passages, verses like Matthew 17 verse 5, and the voice from heaven says, this is my son, you must listen to him. And you see the significance of that. It's not just, it's Jesus, you should listen to him, which is obviously a good idea in itself. But it's like, this is the one that Moses spoke about. Now, just as an aside, Islam says that Muhammad is the prophet. He is not. Jesus Christ is the prophet that this is speaking about. it puts an enormous importance on listening. Well, it's all about listening to the right voices. God says, I myself will call to account anyone who does not listen to my words that the prophet speaks. And before it says that, God says, I will put my words in his mouth and he will tell them everything I command them. And Jesus, particularly in John's Gospel, says, I speak only what I hear my Father speak, and do only what I see my Father do. And later on says, I'm telling you everything my Father has told me. See, this is describing Jesus. And God says that you must listen to him. And if you don't listen to him, you are in enormous trouble. And then the converse is that he gives a very severe warning about those who claim to speak in God's name, but are not doing so under God's authority. He says they must be put to death. Now, I'm not saying we should put false prophets to death, but we should treat false teachers, false prophets very seriously. We do not entertain them. We don't stone them, but we don't entertain them. We don't listen to them. And then say, well, how can we know if they speak the truth? How do we know? And it gives a very simple test here. If they say what they say does not come true, then you know they're not speaking on my behalf. They've spoken presumptuously, you don't need to listen to them. So if someone spouts rubbish, we just ignore them. Elsewhere, I think it's in fact in Deuteronomy, I can't remember offhand now, but there's another warning, like even if what they say or they do special signs, and they happen, miracles occur, or seem to occur, but they're leading you to worship other gods, you do not listen to them. So those are the two key tests for prophets. One, the accuracy of what they say, and two, perhaps even more importantly, does it bring glory to the name of Jesus Christ? So on that note, we'll stop there. That's chapter 18 done.